Hello, everyone. Welcome to the profound world of yokai. These monstrous beings, stirring in the darkness of night, have captivated people's imaginations for ages, becoming objects of terror and awe. Among them, the Rokurokubi and Nuka-kubi are perhaps the most bizarre and possess a certain eerie beauty. Today we will focus on these two yokai, delving deeply into their origins, legends, and even modern scientific perspectives. Why would only a human head undergo such an abnormal transformation? By approaching this mystery with medical insights, your understanding of yokai will undoubtedly reach a new phase. By the time you finish watching this video, the neck of someone walking beside, you might just appear a little longer than usual. Come, let us embark together on a forbidden journey of exploration. First, let's introduce the Rokurokubi. This yokai lives as an ordinary human during the day, but at night, its neck stretches abnormally long. Often depicted as women in many legends, their strange appearance gives viewers a strong sense of shock mixed with an unsettling allure. The etymology of Rokurokubi is said to come from the rokuro, potter's wheel used to shape pottery. The way a pot transforms on the wheel while spinning was likely likened to a neck stretching long. However, what makes this yokai terrifying and intriguing is not just that its neck extends, but that it performs various actions while its neck is elongated. Its first appearance in literature is believed to be in the Edo period, collection of strange tales, Sorori Monogatari. Here, a young samurai on a journey encounters a woman whose neck stretches up to the ceiling at night to lick oil from an oil lamp. This story is very famous as the prototype of Rokurokubi, and thereafter it began to be depicted in many strange and ghost stories. Many Rokurokubi are often portrayed as being unaware of their own abnormality, or desperately hiding their true identity. Because they lead normal lives during the day, their transformation only appears at night. This might symbolize the hidden side of human nature, their concealed true self. In some legends, a Rokurokubi's husband discovers his wife's nocturnal transformation, is horrified by her stretched neck, and ultimately, the wife meets a tragic end, discovering her true identity. Furthermore, some Rokurokubi possess more malicious traits, such as sucking human blood or draining human life force. By extending its neck, it can reach prey in places normally inaccessible, stealing their vitality. This can be interpreted as the embodiment of human desires, or malice that preys on others. However, on the other hand, there are also legends of harmless Rokurokubi that simply stretch their necks out of curiosity or hunger. The act of licking oil might reflect a certain craving for oil, a valuable resource in that era. Rokurokubi legends have been passed down across various regions of Japan. It is a yokai widely shared among people, not limited to a specific area, proving that many believed in and feared its existence. Its form has been depicted in classical performing arts like kabuki and ukiyo-e, deeply rooted in Japanese culture. Next, let's look at the Nuka-kubi. This yokai is often confused with the Rokurokubi, but there is a definitive difference in their nature. The Nuka-kubi is even more unrealistic and terrifying at night. Its head completely separates from its torso and floats in the air. While the Rokurokubi's neck stretches while remaining attached to its body, the Nuka-kubi's head literally detaches. The torso remains in place after the head flies off, lying dormant like a shell. The head, flying freely through the air, moves to various places at its own will, and is sometimes said to inflict harm upon people. The origin of the Nuka-kubi is also said to derive from the Chinese yokai Hituban. Hituban is a yokai whose head separates from its body and flies around, supposedly sucking human blood every night. Similar yokai are widely distributed in Southeast Asia, such as the Banshee in Thailand or the Penanggalan in Malaysia. In these regions, many of them are women, who live as ordinary women during the day, a commonality observed. A famous Nuka-kubi legend in Japan is found in the Taiheki. It describes a man living in Hizen Province, parts of modern-day Saga and Nagasaki prefectures, who witnesses his wife's head detach from her torso and fly around at night. Before her head can return, he hides her body. The head, having lost its place to return, eventually exhausts its strength and perishes. This story suggests that the Nuka-kubi's weakness lies in its separated torso. If its body is hidden or harmed, the Nuka-kubi loses its way back and meets its demise. The purposes for which a Nuka-kubi flies around vary. They may suck people's blood, extract their livers, or simply wander to instill fear. While most act with malicious intent, some legends also describe them flying through the night sky, simply driven by the urge to fly. Both Rakurakubi and Nukakubi share the commonality of the head, undergoing an abnormal transformation. Yet there are clear differences in their form and operational principles. Rakurakubi represents a deformation, where a part of the body stretches, while Nukakubi signifies a more fundamental bodily anomaly of a part separating. This difference affects both the yokai's character and the quality of fear they inspire. Now, while what we have discussed so far are merely yokai legends, a question arises. If phenomena like Rakurakubi or Nukakubi could truly occur in the human body, what kind of mechanism would be behind them? From here, I would like to deeply consider that possibility from a medical perspective. As mentioned in the input, let's consider the possibility of a neck-stretching physiological phenomenon, or an abnormal cervical spine structure within the body from the viewpoint of Medicine X rare illness. First, regarding the phenomenon of the neck stretching long like a Rakurakubi, this might be interpreted as an abnormality of the cervical spine in modern medicine. The human cervical spine plays an extremely important role in supporting the skull and sending nerves from the brain to the entire body, and it usually consists of 7 bones vertebrae. If this cervical spine were to undergo abnormal development, or if its structure were to change due to a specific disease, the phenomenon of the neck appearing abnormally long or actually stretching is not entirely impossible. Possible scenarios include the following. 1. Excessive flexibility and extensibility, hypermobility. Some individuals are born with joint laxity, where their joints are abnormally flexible. This occurs due to abnormalities in connective tissue, such as in Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Patients with this syndrome exhibit abnormally stretchy skin and excessively flexible joints. Theoretically, if the neck joints, surrounding ligaments, and muscles possessed such abnormal extensibility, it is conceivable that the neck could physically move in a way that makes it appear longer than usual. Of course, there would be a risk of joint dislocation, but in extreme cases, a phenomenon resembling a Rakurakubi might momentarily occur. 2. Abnormal vertebral development. It is also conceivable that individual vertebrae making up the cervical spine could grow abnormally long due to some genetic factor or an unknown disease. If each vertebra were longer than usual, the overall neck length would naturally increase. This could be considered a type of congenital malformation. However, in such cases, the neck would not freely extend and contract, but would be permanently in an elongated state. 3. Abnormal elongation of muscles and connective tissues. Even without problems in the cervical spine itself, if the muscles, ligaments, and tendons that support the neck developed abnormal extensibility or excessive growth, the neck could appear longer than usual. Specifically, if there were a condition where the neck muscles were abnormally relaxed or connective tissues were stretched out, one might perceive the neck as elongated due to gravity or experience, a sensation of temporary stretching. 4. Endocrine abnormalities. There are also diseases where bones and cartilage undergo abnormal growth due to endocrine abnormalities, such as excessive secretion of growth hormone. For instance, in acromegaly, the bones of the hands, feet, and face enlarge, and in very rare cases, abnormal spinal growth has been reported. If these were to specifically affect the cervical spine, the possibility of the neck becoming abnormally long cannot be denied. 5. Psychological factors or illusion. Many yokai legends are also said to have their roots in human illusions, psychological fear, or mental disorders. For example, one might experience a sensation of their body abnormally stretching during sleep paralysis or perceive others' appearances as distorted due to fear or anxiety. The fact that they are often witnessed at night also suggests the possibility that in situations where visual information is limited by darkness, the human brain tried to compensate for information, resulting in the creation of a monstrous figure. Now, regarding the phenomenon of the head separating from the torso and flying, like a nukakubi, this is utterly inconceivable to occur in the human body. Based on modern medical and biological knowledge, if the head were to separate from the torso, The spinal cord, blood vessels, nerves, and all would be severed, resulting in immediate loss of life. However, if we were to force a medical interpretation, it would remain within the realm of highly speculative or metaphorical consideration, such as the following. 1. Confusion of astral projection with physical phenomena. The expression, "the head flies," for nukakubi might not refer to a physical separation of the head, but rather to how people at the time visually interpreted a phenomenon like astral projection, where the spirit or soul separates from the physical body and moves. It's possible that in the borderland between dream and reality, or in an altered state of consciousness, one might experience the sensation of their consciousness moving away from their body, which was then described as the head flying. And perhaps this mental experience was later passed down as a physical separation. 2. Abnormal self-body perception, due to severe dissociative disorder. As an extremely rare mental disorder, there are symptoms like dissociative somatic symptom disorder, where one feels that a part of their body does not belong to them. In cases where these symptoms worsen drastically, individuals might experience powerful hallucinations, or delusions that their head has detached from their body and is moving freely. And when such patients were witnessed, it is conceivable that those around them perceived it as a nukakubi. 3. Physical mutation and analogy with insects or reptiles. Some creatures in biology, like certain lizards, can sever their tails to escape, or insects shed their exoskeletons during molting. It is not entirely impossible, though extremely unlikely, that the human body might temporarily mimic the characteristics of these different creatures due to some rare illness. However, this is entirely in the realm of science fiction according to modern science. 4. Unconscious actions, during sleep and dream confusion. In very rare cases, during sleep, one might unconsciously move their head vigorously or roll over, and in a hazy state of consciousness, experience the illusion that their head is moving separately from their body. Furthermore, in cases of sleep disorders like sleep apnea, when consciousness hovers between wakefulness and sleep, one might have dreams accompanied by abnormal bodily sensations, which are then confused with reality. Thus, when trying to interpret the phenomena of rokurakubi and nukakubi from a medical perspective, while some possibilities can be found on the extension of rare illnesses or physiological phenomena, especially a complete separation, like the nukakubi enters an unrealistic realm unexplainable by modern science. However, it can also be argued that people's imagination and fear amplified these slight bodily anomalies and illusions, embodying them in the form of yokai. Yokai can also be said to be the embodiment of unexplained natural phenomena, anxieties, fears hidden in people's hearts, and curiosity about the strange. Rokurakubi and nukakubi are precisely symbols of this, embodying a sense of awe towards the human body, a being both most familiar and most mysterious. In modern Japan, with the advancement of science and technology, mysteries of diseases and the body have been solved one after another. Yet, there still exist unexplained rare illnesses and rare bodily abnormalities. If people with strange physical characteristics like rokurakubi or nukakubi truly existed in the past, how might they have been treated in society at that time? They might have been feared and discriminated against as monstrous, or they might have been revered as sacred beings, or treated as individuals with special powers. It can also be considered that behind yokai legends lies the history of how people with physical characteristics interacted with society throughout such times. For example, imagine a person whose neck structure was very flexible, making it appear temporarily long. If that person unconsciously made gestures of stretching their neck at night, those who saw it might have spread rumors like, "It's a yokai whose neck stretches." And as these rumors were passed down with embellishments, they might have been increasingly dramatized, eventually forming the current rokurakubi legends. Moreover, stories like the nukakubi, where the head and torso separate, are most likely based on some form of illusion, intense dreams, or phenomena like mass hysteria. However, it is not difficult to imagine that for people of that time, these were perceived as real events and became objects of awe. Especially incidents occurring at night or in deserted places would have stoked people's fears and provided ample material to be passed down as ghost stories. Even in modern creative works, rokurokubi and nukakubi are popular motifs. In horror works, their eerie appearance terrifies people, and in fantasy works, they are sometimes depicted as beings with unique abilities. They can also appear as comical characters in gag manga, leveraging their neck-stretching characteristic. In this way, even as times change, yokai like rokurokubi and nukakubi continue to stimulate people's imaginations. This is proof that humanity's fundamental curiosity, the drive to explore the unknown and the unusual, is passed down through generations. When we encounter phenomena or beings beyond our understanding, we try to approach their mystery by passing them down as stories and preserving them for future generations. Yokai legends are also a cultural product born from such human intellectual curiosity and primitive fear. The stories of rokurokubi and nukakubi are not just scary tales. They contain deep contemplation about the human body and reverence for the unseen. Our bodies may still hold many unsolved mysteries. Perhaps phenomena that fundamentally shake what we consider normal about the human body might be quietly occurring even in modern society, albeit very rarely. No matter how much medicine advances, it cannot unravel all the mysteries of the human body. The possibility of unnamed rare illnesses and physiological phenomena beyond common sense is never zero. Such awe and exploratory spirit towards the unknown may be the driving force that has created and passed down yokai, like rokurokubi and nukakubi from ancient times to the present. Through this video, I hope you gain a different perspective on the yokai rokurokubi and nukikubi, by not simply dismissing them as old tales or fabrications, but by contemplating the possibility that they might exist. Our world will become even richer in depth and mystery. At the Yokai channel, we will continue to explore various yokai mysteries that stimulate your intellectual curiosity. If you have any strange experiences or suspicious rumors around you, please share them in the comments. Perhaps that could be the beginning of a new yokai story. Well, our journey into the profound world of yokai is now coming to an end. This world may still hold many phenomena unexplainable by science and beings beyond our understanding. Rokurokubi and nukakubi feel as if they are gently opening a door to such unknown realms for us. They may be mirrors reflecting our deepest fears of the monstrous and, simultaneously, our fascination with it, hidden deep within our own bodies and minds. In this channel, we will continue to unravel ancient yokai stories together, delving into the human emotions behind them and their scientific possibilities. We wish to share with you moments of spine-chilling terror, mysteries that spark intellectual curiosity, and sometimes stories imbued with people's warm hearts. The presence of yokai might quietly lurk in our daily lives. By encountering their stories, we become aware of the diversity of this world and the boundless nature of human imagination. And sometimes it can be an opportunity to confront the darkness and light hidden within ourselves. It would be our greatest pleasure if this channel could bring a little spice and intellectual excitement to your daily lives. Please look forward to our continued exploration of new yokai stories, urban legends, and unexplained phenomena from various angles. With that, our profound journey into yokai exploration concludes here. Thank you very much for watching until the end. We look forward to meeting you again in the next video in a new world of yokai, on a night when the rain falls softly or a deep fog blankets the path where not even moonlight can reach. Have you ever stopped in your tracks at the faint sound of a baby crying from somewhere in the darkness? If the source of that voice were a woman standing alone in the shadows, holding a blood-stained garment and pleading for your help, what would you do? She might not be just a lost mother, but a yokai known as ubume, a spirit who left this world with a powerful lingering attachment. Tonight, let us take the time to unravel the story of this sorrowful yokai and the deep psychological distress she represents, which still resonates with many of us today. The existence of the ubume has been recorded since ancient times in various regions of Japan, and even in Chinese folklore. Her form is sometimes described as a beautiful woman, and at other times as a terrifying bird of prey. Most famously, she appears as a woman wearing a robe, stained red from the waist down, cradling a small child. In the past, the act of giving birth was an event that truly risked one's life. Behind the miracle of bringing a new soul into the world, many women lost their lives before they could fulfill their journey. It is said that the intense attachment of these women, Their longing to hold and raise their children took shape as the yokai ubume. Here, I would like to ask you a question. Have you ever experienced a deep regret over not being able to protect someone precious, or an attachment that you simply could not let go of? If that feeling were strong enough to surpass your own life, what form would your soul take? The story of the ubume is not just a tale of the past. It may be a reflection of the deep-seated love and shadows that reside in any human heart. Among the legends of the ubume, the story of the stone baby has terrified people for generations. While walking a lonely road at night, a woman suddenly appears and begs you to hold her child for just a moment. Sensing her distress and wanting to help, you take the infant into your arms and the woman vanishes. However, as time passes, the baby becomes unbelievably heavy. What felt as light as a feather at first begins to sink into your arms, eventually becoming as heavy as a massive boulder. You might find yourself forced to your knees, desperately praying or chanting for the sun to rise. When the morning light finally breaks and you look down at your arms, you find not a child, but a cold stone or a pile of withered leaves. What does this description of a baby growing heavier signify? Many believe it represents the invisible weight of responsibility that a mother carries, the pressure of guarding a life, and the guilt of being unable to fulfill that duty. These women may have simply wanted someone to share that overwhelming emotion, or perhaps they wanted to etch the proof that their child truly existed into the arms of another. If we look at historical records like the Wakan Sansai Zue, an encyclopedia from the Edo period, the ubume is also depicted as a frightening bird that steals children. Flying over the roofs of houses at night, she is said to leave drops of her poisonous blood on laundry left outside. Any child who wore those clothes would fall ill or be snatched away by the ubume. Why would she target the children of others? It may be that the void left by losing her own child transformed into a distorted sense of envy, or a loneliness that could not bear to see the happiness of others. This mirrors the silent isolation some parents feel today when they struggle with child rearing, while seeing only the happy faces of other families. Have you ever felt crushed by the pressure to be a perfect parent? There is a theory that the ubume is actually a personification of the unstable mental state, known as postnatal distress or depression. The feeling of not being able to love one's child, the lack of confidence in raising them, or the urge to simply disappear. Those silent cries of the heart may have reached the ears of people in the past, as the fluttering wings of a mysterious bird in the night. Furthermore, the fact that the ubume is often depicted in blood-stained clothing is deeply connected to the social background of the time. In the past, the blood associated with childbirth was often treated as something to be feared or avoided due to cultural taboos. It was even believed that a woman who departed this world while still carrying a child would be unable to find peace. To save their souls, families would perform rituals, such as placing a doll in the casket to help them let go of their attachments. The terrifying appearance of the ubume was a symbol of the irrational prejudice and fear that women of that era were forced to endure. Now let me ask you another question. If a sorrowful ubume appeared before you, how would you respond? Would you flee in terror, or would you wish to lighten the burden she carries, even if only a little? In the stories of the ubume, there are also tales of mysterious salvation. There is a story of a man who was asked to hold a baby and endured its growing weight until dawn. For his bravery and compassion, he was granted incredible physical strength. This suggests that those who overcome the grueling trials of parenting and responsibility through the support of others and their own mental fortitude can grow significantly as human beings. The message hidden behind this ghost story might be one of hope that suffering and pressure can be transformed into true strength once they are transcended. However, the ubume of the modern era still hides among us in different forms. For instance, the voices on social media or internet forums crying out about the hardships and regrets of parenting. Those voices are the modern equivalent of the ubume's wings. Mothers who are isolated, facing their children in closed rooms and blaming themselves. The weight in their hearts grows heavier every moment, much like the stone baby in the legend. If that weight becomes too much to bear, their hearts too might fly away to somewhere far, far away. The legend of the ubume confronts us with the preciousness of life and, at the same time, the social indifference toward the sorrow that falls through the cracks of that process. By creating the concept of a yokai, people of the past gave form to unexplainable tragedies and the shadows of the mind attempting to face them. The rituals to comfort the ubum were not only for the departed, but were also a form of community care to soothe the anxieties of living mothers. As we reach the heart of the story, the true wish of the ubume becomes clear. In some regions, it was tradition to build small shrines, where the ubum was said to appear, offering warm milk or sweets. What they wanted was likely not to take a life, but simply to be recognized as a mother and to have their struggles acknowledged. To take off the blood-stained robes and sleep peacefully as a woman. That may be the only salvation the ubum has sought for hundreds of years. What did you feel as you listened to this story of the ubume? It is more than just a scary tale. It is filled with heartbreakingly human emotions. Yokai are mirrors of ourselves. The attachments and anxieties held by the ubum exist, in some form within our own hearts today. If we can listen to their cries not as paranormal phenomena, but as the voices of neighbors seeking help, the darkness of the night path might be touched by a gentle light. If you see a parent nearby who looks exhausted, as if they are carrying a heavy stone alone, please remember this story. The shadow of the ubum might be drawing near to them. What can dispel that shadow is not an exorcism, but your simple words of support or a helping hand. The sound of the ubum's wings may still be echoing in the sky somewhere tonight. It is a warning and at the same time a prayer for help. As long as we do not forget the spirit of sharing and listening, this sorrowful yokai will one day surely become a gentle bird and fly away into the distant sky. I hope this story has helped you deepen your understanding of the spiritual depth of Japanese yokai and the circumstances women faced in the past. The ubum is not a relic of the past. She is a story of love and suffering that seeks to be born in someone's heart even at this very moment. If you have any local legends about the ubum, mysterious stories of spirits of motherhood, or your own experiences, please share them in the comments. Your words might be a small light that saves someone shivering in loneliness right now. On this channel, we will continue to explore stories that delve into the depths of humanity, hidden behind Japanese yokai and urban legends. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe and give us a high rating. Until next time, when the door to another story opens, please watch your step on the night path. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me tonight. Tonight, I would like to talk about a woman who plunged Japan into the depths of terror during the Showa era. She wears a red coat, has long flowing hair, and covers her face with a large white mask. If you saw her standing at a street corner, what would you do? What if she turned to you and asked in a quiet voice, "Am I pretty?" Today, wearing masks has become a common sight. But there was a time when it was believed that an unimaginable horror was hidden beneath that white fabric. It was 1979, the 54th year of the Showa era. The rumor, which reportedly began in a certain town in Gifu Prefecture, spread across all of Japan in the blink of an eye, robbing children of their peaceful daily lives. Tonight, let us carefully unravel why this existence known as Kuchisaka Onna, the slit-mouthed woman, terrified people so deeply, and explore the social anxieties and deep-seated psychology that lay behind the phenomenon. First, let us look back at the feverish commotion of that time. In early 1979, the rumor that began in Gifu did not spread through traditional media like television or newspapers, but through the word of mouth of children, or what we would call a viral explosion today. At dusk, on the way home from school, a tall woman wearing a mask would appear. As she passed by, she would ask, "Am I pretty?" If the person answered that she was pretty, she would slowly remove her mask. Her mouth was torn wide open all the way to her ears. Then she would laugh and ask, "Even now?" while attempting to take the person away from this world with a pair of sharp scissors. Or she might slit the person's mouth to look just like hers. If the person answered that she was not pretty, they would be immediately sent to their end right then and there. It was a terrifying choice with no escape. As this story spread, elementary schools across Japan fell into a state of panic. It reached a point where the police increased. Their patrols and teachers had to lead groups of students home for safety. Do you remember any forbidden games or scary rumors that everyone believed? When you were a child, the rumor of the slit-mouthed woman was more than just a prank. It carried the weight of a significant social phenomenon. Here is my first question for you. If a stranger spoke to you on a dark road at night, Would you be able to run away without hesitation? Or would you find yourself answering them politely? What made this commotion even more complex was the spread of specific methods to escape her, or what we might call Gonglu strategies, chanting the word pomade 3 times, or giving her amber sugar candy. These may seem silly from a modern perspective, but for the children of that time, they were the only source of hope. Why pomade? The reasons given were quite detailed, such as the idea that the surgeon who operated on her smelled of pomade, or that she simply hated the scent. The fascinating thing about urban legends is how the details are constantly layered and added upon. What started as a local story in Gifu had evolved by the time it reached Tokyo, even gaining supernatural physical abilities, such as being able to run 100 meters in just a few seconds. This setting of extreme speed seems to symbolize the sense of despair children felt, believing that they could never outrun her if they were chased. Next, I want to focus on why a monster like the slit-mouthed woman was born during this specific period. In the late 1970s, Japan's high economic growth had stabilized, and while society was maturing, new anxieties were beginning to sprout. One of those was the interest in and fear of cosmetic surgery. At the time, surgeries to obtain beauty were becoming more common, but at the same time, people harbored a latent fear of what might happen if the procedure failed. One of the most famous theories regarding her identity is that of a woman who lost her mind after a failed cosmetic surgery. This can be seen as an expression of modern fear that the unknown powers of science and medicine might transform one's appearance into something monstrous. Furthermore, this was a time when the competition for school entrance exams intensified, and children had more frequent occasions to walk the streets at night, to attend cram schools, less time with family, and the fear of walking alone in the dark. The appearance of a distorted woman before these lonely children may have been a symbol of the cracks appearing in modern society. Here's my second question for you. In today's society, do you feel a different kind of fear regarding masks compared to the past? Is the anxiety of not being able to see someone's face something that remains constant across different eras? The story of the slit-mouthed woman did not stop within the borders of Japan. Entering the 2000s, this legend crossed the ocean to South Korea, China, and Southeast Asia. In South Korea, she became known as the Red Mask and became a huge hit among children, just as she had in Japan. Interestingly, the story changed slightly in each country to fit the local culture. For example, modern situations were added, such as trying to escape in a taxi, only to find the driver was one of her accomplices. This shows that the motif of the slit-mouthed woman possesses a power that appeals to the fundamental fears of people, regardless of country or culture. Moreover, her existence is very interesting from a folkloric perspective. Since ancient times, Japan has had female monsters like Yama-uba or Yuki-onna, who emerge from mountains or snow to bewilder people. The slit-mouthed woman can be seen as a modern evolution of these traditional monsters, appearing from the gaps between asphalt, telephone poles, and concrete walls of the city. They share the commonality of being beings that stand on the boundary. Instead of the boundary between the mountains and the village, she stands on the boundary between school and home, or between the everyday and the extraordinary. By the way, if you look closely at the newspaper articles from that time, you can see just how seriously this commotion was taken. An article from June 1979 records that in Fukushima Prefecture, there were numerous reports of a woman wandering with scissors, leading to police intervention. In another area, there were stories of young men starting night watches armed with weapons to catch the slit-mouthed woman. This proves that the rumor had the power to move beyond mere fantasy and shake the actual public order. There is a term called group hysteria, where sharing a single rumor can cause people to take actions that would be unthinkable under normal circumstances. Have you ever witnessed a moment where many people believed the same thing and fell into a panic? A moment where the excitement of the situation outweighed the truth of the information. That itself might be a scarier side of humanity than any monster. Let us approach the climax of the story. Why did the legend of the slit-mouthed woman eventually quiet down? As the summer vacation of 1979 came to an end, the intense commotion receded like the ebbing tide. One theory is that the network of children was fragmented once summer vacation began. However, she did not disappear completely. Since then, she has continued to appear before us, changing her form with each era. With the spread of the internet, new witness testimonies have been shared on forums and social media, and she has been repeatedly featured in movies and animations. The question she asks, "Am I pretty?" This is not just a simple question. It sounds like a lingering irony toward the hunger for validation from others and the obsession with appearance that we constantly hold in modern society. Behind a mask, we can hide our true intentions and play the role we want to be. But when that mask is removed, how will those around us react to the truth revealed there? Perhaps the slit-mouthed woman is an entity that gives form to the ugliness we hide within, and the emotional wounds we cannot show to others. If the doorbell of your house rang tonight, and you saw a woman in a mask standing there through the monitor, and if she quietly asked, "Am I pretty?" what would you answer? Are you prepared to chant pomade? Or would you try to find words that sympathize with her sadness? Urban legends never disappear, even as times change. They hide right next to us, changing their shapes and names. This is because they are born from the anxiety and curiosity within our own hearts. The slit-mouthed woman is an existence that reminds us of the awe of the darkness that we have forgotten in our daily lives. That is all for tonight's story. If this story touched your heart even a little, please subscribe to the channel and give us a high rating. If there are any mysterious rumors whispered around you or scary stories you have actually experienced, please tell us in the comments. Please be very careful on the roads at night. Even if you feel a presence behind you, you must not look back immediately. Well then, let us meet again in the next haunting tale. Good night. Cats are one of our closest companions. Many of you are likely healed every day by their adorable eyes and soft fur. However, since ancient times, Japan has been home to many terrifying legends surrounding these creatures. It is said that cats who live for many years gain supernatural powers and eventually transform into bakaneko. Have you ever heard such stories? Far from being mere products of imagination, there are tales of deep resentment that are incredibly specific and profoundly sad. Tonight, let us unravel the world of the bakaneko, the true nature hidden behind their faces as beloved pets. Now, what image comes to mind when you hear the word bakaneko? Is it a cat licking the oil from a lamp? Or perhaps one dancing with a towel on its head? Or is it a monster that has transformed to settle a grudge? In fact, it has been said since ancient times that certain conditions must be met for a cat to turn into a yokai. One of these is the number of years it has been kept. According to superstitions of the Edo period, a cat that lived for 12 to 13 years or more began to acquire supernatural abilities. Another theory suggests that when a cat's weight exceeds 1 kanmei, or about 3.7 kilograms, it begins to transform. By modern standards, that is a very common weight, but for the people of that time, a cat that grew to such a size may have felt as though it possessed some kind of spiritual power. At this point, I would like to ask you all something. If your beloved cat suddenly stood up on 2 legs one day and began speaking in a human tongue, what would you do? Would you feel terror? Or would you be happy that you could finally communicate with words? When discussing the existence of the bakaneko, the signs of its transformation are essential. The most famous is the behavior of licking lamp oil night after night. In the past, lamp oil was made from fish oil. The sight of a cat attracted to that scent, and licking the oil, cast as a shadow in the darkness, might have looked like a terrifying monster performing a ritual. Furthermore, it is said that if a cat's remains are neglected after it has passed away, or if one says goodbye with cruel treatment, a powerful grudge is born. In particular, a cat that has had its life taken by someone can release such immense energy that it brings disaster, not only to the perpetrator but to their entire bloodline. A representative example of this is the Nabashima disturbance, also known as the Bakaneko disturbance of Saga. The story begins with the tragic end of a blind retainer, Ryuzoji Matashichiro. He lost his life unreasonably, after incurring the wrath of his lord over a game of Go. Upon hearing the news of his passing, his mother was so overcome with grief that she ended her own journey as well. Their pet cat, Koma, who was present, licked the blood of her owners and took all their resentment upon herself. Afterward, Koma transformed into a giant bakaneko, infiltrating the castle and sending those involved to the other world one after another. This is not just a ghost story, but a tale of revenge where the anger of the oppressed exploded through the medium of a cat. The abilities of a Bakaneko are not limited to merely changing their appearance. They are said to possess the power of necromancy, making the deceased dance as if they were still alive. The ability to shapeshift into human form at will, and even the power to manipulate fire. Books from the Edo period record a spine-chilling story of an old cat that claimed the life of an elderly woman, and lived for many years by impersonating her. The family lived without noticing anything at all. But one day, someone glimpsed the woman through a gap in a sliding door, stretching out animal-like limbs to groom herself, and her true identity was revealed. This kind of horror where a familiar presence is replaced by something alien before you know. It is the true essence of Bakaneko lore. There is another existence often confused with the Bakaneko, called the Nekomata. Generally, it is said that a Nekomata has a tail that is split in two, while a Bakaneko does not. However, what they have in common is the resentment or spiritual power, born from a deep connection with humans. Nekomata that live in the mountains are particularly ferocious, depicted as terrifying monsters that attack and consume humans who wander into their territory. On the other hand, Bakaneko living in villages sometimes use their power for specific revenge, or even to repay a kindness from the past. Do you feel more reality in the stories of cats, repaying favors, or in the stories of them seeking revenge? We must also touch upon the energy of resentment, born from the mistreatment of animals. Historically, Japanese people believed that a soul dwells in all things. In particular, cats were seen as emotional and persistent, and people were strictly warned that committing violence against them would lead to one's own ruin. Even today, there are endless stories of misfortune befalling those who treat animals poorly. Is that merely a coincidence? Or is it the cry of animals who were forced to leave this world unreasonably, reaching us across time and space in a different form? The legend of the Bakaneko feels like a strong message to us humans, that we must never forget to respect life. What is even more interesting is that Bakaneko are found all over Japan, not just in specific regions. For example, in the Bakaneko disturbance of Awa, a cat named Otama became a Bakaneko to clear the name of a woman who was imprisoned on false charges, hunting down those who had acted dishonestly. In this way, the Bakaneko is often on the side of the weak, acting as an enforcer of justice. While people feared the mysterious power of cats, perhaps they also secretly hoped for this overwhelming power to punish evil and reward good. Now, if your beloved cat is staring at you right now, what do you see in the depths of those eyes? Perhaps they already understand human language and are strictly monitoring our actions, and we simply haven't noticed yet. The climax we must discuss is where these Bakaneko eventually end up. In many stories, the Bakaneko is ultimately defeated by a strong samurai or a priest. But is that the true resolution? Does the sadness and suffering that was the source of the resentment vanish just by destroying them? In fact, some legends tell of a Bakaneko who, once its identity is revealed, speaks of memories with its former owner through tears and quietly fades away. What they were seeking may not have been a blood-soaked revenge, but simply the peaceful days they had lost. The monstrous form of the Bakaneko is like a mirror, reflecting human selfishness and cruelty. Finally, let us consider the Bakaneko in the modern age. In this day and age, there are no cats licking lamp oil, but the internet is full of mysterious videos and experiences. A cat staring at a single point in an empty room, and hissing, an inexplicable shadow captured on a pet camera, while the owner is away, or stories of a cat that has passed away appearing by one's pillow. Even if the form and method change, the connection between cats and the other world may still be continuing. Bakaneko are not relics of the past. We cannot deny the possibility that they are lurking right beside us at this very moment. Every living thing has emotions and a soul. If we neglect lives other than our own and wound their dignity, a second or third Bakaneko will surely be born. I hope the story I shared tonight serves not just as a scary tale, but as an opportunity to reaffirm the weight of life. Thank you for staying with me until the end. What did you think of the stories surrounding the Bakaneko? If you have had any mysterious experiences with cats around you, please let me know in the comments. On this channel, we will continue to explore the depths of yokai, urban legends, and psychic phenomena from across Japan. If you want to know more about the world of darkness, please subscribe and give us a high rating. I look forward to seeing you in the next story. Please be careful on your way home at night. If you feel a presence behind you, it might just be the incarnation of a small life you once forgot.